part of this also triggered me in a way because I am guilty of, again, like you said, I am not a check-in every day type of person. I'm a very much, when I'm here, it's all about you, but I don't check in as often as I should with friends. And I've been told that in the past and I've adjusted, but you just have to tell me, but it's not a natural instinct. And so with this, I understand like Eva being like, this is kind of a high maintenance friendship in a way where I'm not going to be the same type of giving friend that you are to me, but I will show up in the ways that I can. If you need me, I will always be there. And so that would make me consider like, oh, am I a bad friend because I think about you, but I might not text you to be like, hey, I just want to make sure you're okay. But you should know that I would hope you would call me if you weren't okay and know that I would show up for you and be there for you. I'm just not I'm not considerate.
Yeah.
I'm not a considerate friend in the way that I would like to be.
That's a pronouncement there.
It's true. And it's like one of my biggest flaws because I'm just so work focused that I'm not like, I'll think about you, but not tell you that I'm thinking about you.
Right. And that's fair.
But that's also a part of friendship, right?
Hey guys, and welcome to Little Black Bird 91. I'm doing a part 2. Now, I know a lot of you guys will comment on my first video that I dropped, and I know a lot of you were in agreement, but some of you weren't, and I understand that. We're talking obviously about avoidant attachment and talking about what Issa Rae actually just spoke about. And what was really interesting about this was that what Issa Rae was kind of breaking down was her saying she already, first of all, knew that she was an inconsiderate friend. Reason why, because most avoidants know they're an inconsiderate friend. I'm one of those avoidants, and we know because we need our space so much. And when other people are able to give, we're trying to give like they're giving, but it just struggles to do it because we're overwhelmed most times, right? But then she also mentioned about the fact that she's gonna be there when she needs to be there. Okay, she's the kind of friend that will just if you need her, she's gonna be there. Right, which are absolute tropes and phraseology that most people who are avoidants kind of say. In fact, let me give you a couple of phrases that we often say. They might say to you, "I meant to call, I just couldn't get around to it," because oftentimes you've got bad time management. Number 2, I thought about them, but it never felt like the right time to reach out. I didn't want to disturb them. I didn't know what to say. It's been so long now, it would be awkward. I needed space and just got stuck in my own world. I was waiting for them to reach out first. All of these things about what I just said, right? All of these things I just said above really are ways that the avoidant actually says, basically, I'm struggling to be able to maintain this relationship in a way that has a good balance, okay? I want to be able to reach out. I want to be able to call you, but I struggle with time management. And also I struggle with being emotionally overwhelmed. And so I only have a limited capacity to give you. This has got nothing to do with astrology of Capricorns, okay? If you're a Capricorn, okay, there are Cancers out there, there are Libras out there, Pisces out there who have the same issues. And usually these issues stem from childhood wounds. Now, someone said, I don't know her background. So I did a little bit of research and I saw that obviously her father was Senegalese, I believe, if I'm correct, right? And they went back to Senegal, but they actually broke up. They had a divorce, I think, if I remember correctly, right? And that can cause an issue for young children, right? And how that affects them, okay? She had 2 older brothers, and I believe that was from her mum's previous relationship rather than the relationship she had with her dad, her mom and dad coming together. Okay, so there's only a couple of things. I'm sure if I go a little bit deeper and research some more, we'll find the reasons why there is some level of avoidancy here. And her avoidancy doesn't mean necessarily she's a dismissive avoidant or fearful avoidant. But let me scoot back because I'm talking psychology language without really breaking it down. First and foremost, when I talk about attachment styles, it is something that was born out of an experiment by John Bowlby, who's a British psychologist, who was actually observing how young children deal with separation anxiety. Okay, so how do the kids respond when a caregiver is in the room, then leaves, and then comes back? And so what they found out, and I'm going to speak specifically to avoidance, what they found out with avoidance is the 2 types of avoidance, fearful avoidance and dismissive. With dismissive avoidance, there was this indifference. So when a parent is there, the child is indifferent. When a parent leaves, the child is indifferent. When a parent comes back, the child is indifferent. Why? Because the child has learned self-sufficiency because its emotional needs have not been met. Now, I had comments down below saying, I'm the same way. All my emotional needs get met. Your emotional needs don't have to be met. We're not talking about you being at 7, 8, 9. It can happen when you are actually 2, 3. This is early child development. So even the cries of that baby, if they were not attended to in the right way, this can begin the process, not that you are, begin the process of becoming avoidance because a child is learning very quickly to be self-sustaining. So from what they've noticed from those children in that space is how they reacted. Now there's fearful avoidant and dismissive avoidant. Dismissives do exactly what the name says, dismiss their own emotions. With fearful avoidance, they carry both an anxious and an avoidant spirit. What is the anxious attachment? The anxious attachment basically is people who are oftentimes overgivers. They are always serving people. They are validated by outside by external relationships. They don't self-soothe very well. They're always looking to earn love rather than just be able to receive it. They're always giving, in a sense, right? They are anxious whenever there's any level of separation, right? So where the avoidants avoid the anxiety, the anxious people lean into the anxiety, okay? Right? And so I believe here, let's just call it an avoidance, because I don't know if she's fearful or dismissive just as yet. But some of the things she's saying sounds more like the dismissive, right? She's dismissing the fact that a lot of this relationship, she's talking about it being low maintenance. So I'm going to play the clip again, and I'll stop it at certain points so we can actually just begin to break it down a little bit as well. And I can give you some guidance as to why I believe there's a bit of avoidance, but also why you don't call people. Because the reality of the situation is the reason why a lot of avoidance don't call people is because they haven't got good boundaries. I'm going to call you out again on part 2 of the video. You don't have good boundaries. You think you do because you spend time alone. But the fact is you spend time alone because you don't know how to time box, and you don't know how to have good, effective boundaries when it comes to the energy that you are giving when you are in those situations. Hence why she says that I'm here whenever you need me. Why can't you be there proactively? Why can't you be there proactively? Why can't you call me and say, hey, I'm just checking up on you? Why is it you have to wait to be reacted to? Because that's what avoidance do. Avoidance want to stay in their own block and in their own space because other people's energy is zapping, and it's time consuming and it's overwhelming. I did it in the Paul Pierce video. I spoke about it. I said it's easy to notice when men do it, but you will know in your friendships that you have people that are avoidance. And you know that because you're always saying that person, you have to call them first. If you have a friend that you always have to call first, if you're the friend that always has to be called first before you call other people, and if you look at your relationship and you know that you're the majority of the time you're not calling first, they're calling first, more than likely you got an avoidant spirit. Now, of course, over time, the avoidant learns to trust. Over time, the avoidant learns to let people in. Over time, the avoidant begins to be able to be as proactive because they now have a secure base in that friendship. They trust you, and they now know that they won't be betrayed. Sorry, they won't be abandoned by that person or rejected by that person. They now realize there's some level of safety here. But you know what? Let's go a little bit earlier in this video because as much as that clip is very powerful, I was looking at it earlier, and there was a clip here. I wanted to just go a little bit earlier in this video because she mentioned something which is really, really powerful. So we'll come back to that 35 minute. We'll come back there. There's something really powerful about this. So let's just go here where they talk about friendships once more again. Here, just listen to this. I think this is really powerful.
But because of that, you don't end it without the hurt. You know, it is complicated.
Yeah, there's a piece of you that you're giving. So many of the women in my life know things that I just would never share with anyone. That I've as a closed off person, if I've opened up to you, that already means like you mean a lot to me, and that I see a future with you, and automatically if I deem you as a friend, then that's like for life.
Yeah.
And so the idea that gets cut off for any reason, and especially if I'm culpable or if I feel betrayed by you, that is devastating. And even in hearing this letter, this woman felt like she was even hesitant to become this person's friend to begin with. And then ultimately was just like, oh, okay, I see the value in my life. But there were tinges of selfishness there, just even in terms of how she saw the friendship. But it still felt like she was, in any version of this, I don't know. I don't think that she was willing to be a full friend to this woman, is the way that I read it. And that's okay, but you just have to be honest about that.
Yeah.
You can't have it both ways.
Okay, so I don't know if you heard it. So she said it takes a lot for her to open up. And so if she does eventually open up and you get in, like you're in for life, right? That is a typical avoidant response. Why do I say that? Because avoidants build very tall towers of walls. When it comes to boundaries, they build very tall walls. Why? Because they don't want anybody getting in. Because if anybody gets in, they have to start considering that person. And remember, one of the things about avoidance is that they grew up in households where their emotional needs were not met. And what ends up happening is they learn self-sufficiency and hyper-independence. And in that hyper-independence, it's all about, I can do it all bad by myself. Okay? They don't have the feeling of not feeling emotionally safe. it's difficult to now start accommodating somebody else. I don't already feel emotionally safe. So accommodating you too, when I don't fully trust you, it's going to be difficult. So let me give you an example. When it comes to anxious people, they have a very low anxiety when it comes to other people, but high anxiety with themselves, right? But with avoidance, they have, anxious people have a, they have anxious people have a high anxiety with themselves, low anxiety with other people. But when it comes to avoidance, specifically dismissive avoidance, have a very low anxiety with self, high anxiety with other people, meaning other people make them anxious. Other people's emotions, needs, and demands make them anxious. Why? Because they feel like they're going to be trapped. They feel like you have to depend on them. They feel like you're going to be asking for too much. They feel like they can't say no. So they'd rather just avoid the situation. Okay. And so when we're looking at this situation with Issa as to what she was saying, right, about how, and we watched in part 1, which is about wanting a relationship to be low maintenance. The reason why is because low maintenance really means it means low emotions being involved in here, right? I don't want too much of that demand. It's going to cause me to be overwhelmed and for me to shut down. Okay, so you have to understand that emotional overwhelming feels like drowning. I described it in another video as you being in a chamber, and there's limited air supply, and it feels like someone else is taking that air from you. So avoidance try to avoid being in the chamber at all. They don't want to be in the chamber at all because they're afraid that if they get in that chamber, how are they going to ask you to stop breathing? They don't have that ability to be able to let people know this. This is why it wants to be low maintenance, right? Low maintenance also means low risk. Okay, the further you are away from me, the more that I can have control over my own emotions. Because one of the hardest things for avoidance, especially dismissive avoidance, is that they feel like other people's emotions hijack their own emotions. So if you come in with a bad mood, I feel like your bad mood is going to overtake my good mood. I feel like I have to surrender my good mood in order to accommodate you. And I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to avoid you in general. I'll stay in my closet until I am needed. Because maintaining a consistent flow of emotional connection with somebody is scary. Avoidance are doing exactly that. They're trying to avoid the close emotional connection. If I get too close, I'm afraid I'll get hurt or I'll get drained, right? So many people talk about being drained a lot, okay? Their independence is their safety. Understand that. Let's play a little bit more. We're going to go back into what she said.
When I'm here, it's all about you, but I don't check in as often as I should with friends.
Now, let's pause it right there. First of all, she said, listen, if I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there for you, but I don't check in as often as I need to with friends. She's already acknowledging that she knows that that behavior is not in alignment with what she is experiencing with her own friends and how they check in with her. She knows that she struggles in that particular area. The reason being, like I said again, is that there's a feeling of overwhelmed. And how you solve this is by time boxing with your friends. What does that mean? It means let people know when they call you, when you're calling them, hey, I got 15 minutes. I just wanted to talk to you and see how you're doing. Because I'm not going to lie to you, sometimes I look at my phone and I get anxious. I'm like, they're calling me. They must want something from me. Because all avoidance believe is that people want something from them. So if I'm going to be used for something, I want you to use me when I'm ready to be used, not when you want to be ready to use. Because here's a bigger thing for avoidance. The biggest thing for them is control. They feel like other people try to control them. So they're trying to control their environment by saying, hey, you calling me? I'm up. You know what? I'm busy. Are you?
And I've been told that in the past and I've adjusted, but you just have to tell me, but it's not a natural instinct. And so with this, I understand.
Let's pause that. She's even letting you know again, it's not a natural instinct. Why is it not a natural instinct? Why is it not a natural instinct to be proactive in calling your friends? Why is it? And why is that not a natural instinct? That's got nothing to do with you being a Capricorn. Okay, all right. Nothing to do with you being a Pisces. Okay, nothing to do with you being a Cancerian. Okay, all right, a Taurus. Okay, all right, whatever the other rest of them are called. Okay, all right, it's got nothing to do with that. It's the fact that there is childhood wounds that people go through. There's childhood trauma that people go through. And so what ends up happening is they learn self-defense mechanisms that are ways for them to cope and be able to maneuver through life successfully. Okay, so she knows that she needs to be better in her communication. She knows she needs to do better when it comes to the emotional connection, but she's letting you know, I'm gonna be here whenever you need. Okay,
like Eva being like, this is kind of a high maintenance friendship in a way where I'm not going to be the same type of giving friend that you are to me, but I will show up in the ways that I can. If you need me, I will always be there.
Yeah, but see, and that's the thing, because again, going back to what I said, right? One of the things you have to understand is for avoidance, they weren't taught to seek emotional support because they never got it. They never got it. All right. if I call, like our thought process is, if I call them, then maybe I'm bothering them. When in deeper truth is, I don't know how to be needy without feeling weak. I don't know how to just say, hey, I want to have a conversation without feeling weak, because that's not what I was taught, right? We believe in silent loyalty, which is, listen, don't worry, I don't have to make noise, but just know I'm always there. And you know they are always there, because they really are always there. You know, they are the person that you keep your secrets. They are the vault. They are the therapist. They are the counselor. They're all these roles that are in support of you when you need it. But consistent connection is difficult for them. All right, they're like, you know, I'm there. You know, I may not be visible, but you know I'm there. My presence is always carried with you, right? And so for them, initiating feels vulnerable. Calling you feels vulnerable when I don't have that trust of the relationship with you just yet. I only know how to defend and support myself. So it's like, if I don't even know where to even start. What do I even say? How do I even handle emotional situations when I never had the opportunity to really express myself in an emotional format? Right.
And so that would make me consider, like, oh, am I a bad friend because I think about you, but I might not text you to be like, hey, I just want to make sure you're okay.
The fact that you're thinking if you're a bad friend tells me that and as she said herself, her friends have told her about this behavior already. That's what I'm telling you about avoidance. So the reason why you're getting away with it is because your friends have learned how to accommodate you. And listen, some of my friends accommodate me. I'm gonna be honest with you. We know I'm trying to do better. You know, my man, them and that. I'm trying to do better to call them a bit more. You know what I'm saying to you? I'm learning to do more, but I ain't gonna lie to you, it ain't easy. Okay, learning to be the one that's actually on the forefront by just calling people. And like I said, if you time box it, hey, bro, I got 15 minutes. What are you saying? And it's oftentimes because, like I said, it feels like people are impeding on your time and they're impeding on your progress. Right? Whereas a lot of dismissives oftentimes, or even avoidance, let me say in general, oftentimes are doing things that are self-soothing or rather numbing. So like, for instance, I may be busy, but I spent an hour or two playing Xbox. I needed that time to decompress. Okay. All right. When you called, I was playing Xbox. I needed to chill. All right. Or I was reading a book, or I was on a walk, and I just needed that time to think. My brain needed time to think. It doesn't feel safe to try and co-regulate with other people. It doesn't feel safe to share my burdens with other people, because how can you solve them? Right? How can I ask you to solve my issues? Because that's not what I've ever experienced. I've experienced me solving my own issues. So me calling you is not it's only when it's an absolute emergency. When I'm calling you, when I've exhausted every single solution, that's why.
But you should know that I would hope you would call me if you weren't okay, and know that I would show up for you and be there for you. I'm just not I'm not considerate.
Yeah.
I'm not a considerate friend in the way that I would like to be.
And that's the absolute truth. She knows herself. She could be a better friend. And you know yourself, you could be a better friend. And I know I could be a better friend. And most of us who are avoidants tend to find other friends who are usually anxious, because at the end of the day, we start realizing that those people care about us more than we care about ourselves sometimes, right? They're always checking up on us, they're always calling us. And actually, eventually, it does begin to level itself out. You begin to trust that person if they do it enough times, right? Because the thing about avoidance is they've built up such tall walls, right? They need persistent people who said to themselves, I'm going to persist. And guess who was going to persist? Other people who are anxious, right? Because anxious people want to prove a point. They're going to scale that wall. Okay. Now, if you've managed to have other friends who are also avoidant, yeah, you love your space, but you already know yourself. You can call them whenever you need to call them. But the reality is, it's lonely. Let's not lie. You do love your space, but it does get a little bit lonely. There are days where you feel like, damn, I don't have no one to call, because I don't trust no one to call them. And you know, I haven't built that relationship where we can just talk about things regularly. Do you know what I'm saying to you? And it hits you at certain points. That's not gonna be all of you. That's gonna be a lot of you. So if you feel like you can identify what Issa Rae is saying, I will implore you to reach into the link below description and actually sign yourself into some coaching, because you need it. You do. You need it. And I know you're going to defend yourself. And I know you're going to tell me that, no, that's because you're Capricorn. I don't care if you're a Capricorn. Come in and book yourself a session. We're going to find out. And I know some people say, listen, they've never had no trauma in their life. And I say, hey, then you are the exception. But the rest of us who have, book yourself into a session, because this is not the behavior you want to have that's going to be healthy for you in 2025. In 2025, we are healing, we are growing, and we are transforming, baby. Okay? I appreciate you guys. We'll see you again.